Macca's Guides.
Hey guys, Macca here. Welcome to Uncharted 400% Collectibles Guide. This video will show you all 193 pieces of treasure, journal entries, journal notes, and optional conversations. The video will also include commentary with certain tips and tricks on how to get some of the tricky collectibles. At any point in the video, you can look at the top of the screen to see what chapter we're playing and the name of the collectible we're going for. In the case of journal entries, journal notes, and optional conversations, they'll be numbered based on where they are in the game, and you can follow along using the statistics tracker in the menu. Not all chapters contain a collectible, although the majority do. We're starting with chapter 2, where we found one piece of treasure inside a well when we first gained control of our character, and another inside of the bell tower. Then moving on to chapter 3 from the very beginning, we move a little bit forward and go to our right. Underneath a fallen log, we can find an antique padlock. If there's a named collectible at the top of the screen, that means it's a piece of treasure. And you can also keep track of all of these numbers from the main menu by going to chapter select and scrolling through the menu of all the chapters and see where exactly you're missing certain treasures or other types of collectibles. From the previous collectible, we'll move a little bit forward, and then on the left hand side we'll see a small alcove while we're diving with two little entrances. Go into there, and in between the two entrances we can find our next piece of treasure. Once we find the red container, just go 90 degrees to the right of it from when you approach it, and you should be able to find another piece of treasure. Just scour around the area if you're having trouble, and you should see it blinking. Once we wash up on shore, throw down our equipment, we can start an optional conversation. These are identified by a speech bubble with the triangle button above a character's head, and we would have to go up to that person and instigate the conversation for that to track.
How we doing down there?
I'm stunned.
Nah, you know what's stunning? Your smell.
From there, we can turn around and find a treasure behind us up the stairs to the right-hand side.
That's cold, man. Gonna tell her you said that too. My man.
Government's like 10 years behind the rest of the world, right?
Next to that treasure, we have an optional conversation directly behind us.
How'd we do?
How do you think?
Near the beginning of chapter 6, you'll come down to the side of the mansion on this cliff's end, and on the left-hand side at the very tip of the cliff, we can find a piece of treasure. Once we climb up into the citrus yard, we can have an optional conversation with Sam. Just make sure you're following along with him and that you're near him when he brings up the prompt.
Like what?
The smell of fresh citrus.
Again, using the beginning of the little citrus farm as your reference as you climb up, if you run across to the beige house, instead of continuing through the story, we can find a piece of treasure. Once you descend into the side of the mansion and have to go through these arches where you'll then climb up and swing across, you can start an optional conversation with Sam.
I wish. Elena filmed some of it, but the camera didn't make it.
Now that we're inside the mansion in our tuxedos, turn around directly behind you going into the office, and you'll find a treasure on the desk. From that previous treasure, we'll want to walk forward through the hallway and then turn to the right-hand side onto the balcony, and on the corner of the balcony, we can find yet another piece of treasure. Very close by to this piece of treasure, we can find Sam, and we can have an optional conversation with him about our escape plans.
What are you doing?
I'm just going over our exit strategy.
As we descend into the basement of the mansion, at the very bottom floor, after passing by this metal door with a small window in it, at the bottom of the stairs, if you hook around the railing and look under the stairs, you can find a piece of treasure. On the bottom floor of the mansion, once we're inside the pantry/kitchen area, just take your first left-hand turn and you'll find a room with a lot of tables on the side there. Just walk to the back, and behind a little container on the blue tarp, you can find a piece of treasure. This, in my opinion, is the first collectible in the game that is actually out of the way of the main story path. What we'll want to do once we come outside with Sam is, instead of going forward and interacting with him at the gate, we'll want to drop down a story and then go around using the pipe and the window ledges to make our way back to the area we were previously at. Before we jump down, we'll be on a rooftop though, and on that rooftop you should see a glowing piece of treasure, which should be pretty easy to see once you're up there. Just make sure you pick it up before you drop back down and continue on with the story. Now, this is easily the most frustrating collectible in the entire game. If you miss the jump, it'll trigger a checkpoint and you have to restart the whole level. After Sam lowers a ladder for you and you climb up it, go and climb on the side of this building here. Now, we'll need to make this jump from here to the balcony right there that I'm about to jump to. Make sure you grab on and pull yourself up. If you don't make the jump, make sure you pause it before you touch the ground and retry the checkpoint. If you hit the ground before you restart, it'll make a save, and then when you restart, you won't be able to climb up back to the balcony and you'll have to restart the whole level. After that, you'll reach this section where you have to swing across, and once you do, instead of continuing on using the poles, make sure you drop down to your left, and if you poke around to the side, you'll be able to climb up the pillar using some of the handles on it, and if you climb to the top of the handles, you'll actually be able to pick up your next piece of treasure. So now we've skipped forward to Chapter 8, the first very long and in-depth chapter of Uncharted 4. From the very beginning, if we walk forward and then climb up the hill to the left, we'll be able to find one piece of treasure.
So, what happened between you and Rafe?
I couldn't deal with him.
From the previous treasure, if we walk down the hill directly to the corner where the cliff and a large rock meet, you'll find a small cave, and inside of that cave, you can find a collectible.
Imagine what he want to do to you now.
Yeah, trying not to. Sam, listen. He's ruthless. I mean, even more so than when we teamed up with him. I mean, I've heard stories.
Trust me too. All the more reason I don't feel bad about any of this. So is it just like you remember it?
The cathedral grounds?
Yeah.
So we've progressed a little forward into the game. We have taken out the door with the dynamite, and before we go through, we're actually going to want to go behind us and in the corner of this area in order to see a blue tarp, and there's a smaller box with a lighter green tarp, and behind those you can find the carved wood castle. After that, you'll have the yellow crate inside of this dome that we blew up with the dynamite. Go inside, make sure you bring a stick of dynamite with you, and before swinging across, throw the dynamite into this cave to blow up the boxes. After you blow up the boxes and make sure you don't kill yourself, go inside the cave, and on the left-hand side, you will find the carved nut bottle. You'll reach a section of the level where you have to slide across, and you're almost not going to make it. You're going to barely grab onto this ledge, and you're going to continue circling around. This one's actually one of the better hidden collectibles in the game. Jump across, you'll notice that there's this little thing you have to climb, and then you'll have to jump across yet again. You can actually use the pipe and swing across instead of the ledge that I used, but eventually you'll end up in this corner. And before you move on, make sure you drop down using the circle button, and once you land here, feel free to pick up the treasure. You'll now have to do a slide towards the cemetery, so make sure you do that. Grab onto the stick with your rope and swing across. And before we go inside and trigger the door, which kind of triggers a cutscene and doesn't let you return to this area, make sure you climb up the side of the wall on the left of the door. And once you get to the top, there's actually a little bit of a balcony area. In that balcony area, you'll find a statue, and next to that statue, you can find a piece of treasure. So now drop back down from where we just were and open the door co-op style with Sam, and we'll find our first journal entry of the game. Picking this up does unlock a bronze trophy. So once we enter the cemetery, you'll actually see you picked up a journal entry. That doesn't count. Not all of the journal entry kind of little notifications that come up on your screen count as journal entries in the collectibles. Some of them are story related and some of them aren't. It kind of depends, but I'll be showing you all the ones you need. But if you drop down to the left hand side and look into the 2 graves, you'll write down something in your journal and that'll count as your first journal entry. After that, you'll make your way into the graveyard after finding Benjamin Bridgman's stone. You'll come inside and you'll find a note right there. Now, I picked it up before I realized what was going on and my capture card kind of whacked out on me. The note will look like this once you pick it up, and when you put it away, it'll go into your journal. This is your first note of the game, which will also unlock a bronze trophy. After that, we'll make our way down some stairs into a large room with 3 crosses, including Jesus and the 2 thieves on his side. Before we go and interact with those, make sure we just go around to the left-hand side into this kind of side room. We'll find a statue with a Scottish ha'penny in it. And then after that, we pick it up. It's a little bit hard to trigger some of these treasures. You have to be standing in a perfect spot. You're going to want to walk towards the crosses, and you'll be able to trigger a optional conversation. This should be your 6th one of the game. So you'll interact with the crosses, and it'll look like you're about to write in your journal. It actually has the small journal icon that we just found out for the first time in the cemetery. And even though we do take out our journal, this doesn't count as a journal entry. It's a little weird how journal entries are counted. But after that, make sure you turn around and talk to him. After that, you'll want to solve the puzzle, and once you solve the puzzle, there's another optional conversation you can have with Sam. Make sure you do that, and that'll actually automatically trigger your 2nd journal entry to be completed. Later on in the chapter, you'll reach this cliffside. This is a decent way after, and you'll use a rope swing to get across into an area that looks like this. If we follow up the left-hand side, there will be a cave at the top of this hill. And just follow through the cave, and once we come to an intersection, you'll have to go right in order to continue the level. Instead, go left, and you should be able to find a flintlock pistol, which is a rarer weapon, although it's not the greatest because it only has 2 bullets. You can also find your slip joint clasp knife. A little bit after that, you'll see Sam up there trying to put a rope swing up for us, and he's going to ask us to come across. But before we do that, we're actually not going to want to use our rope swing to get up there because that'll trigger a checkpoint. We won't be able to come back down. Instead, jump across the large gap in the canyon into this small cave, and on the left-hand side, find a piece of treasure. We'll then come to a large climbing section, and Sam will pull us up once we reach the top. This is at the very end of quite a bit of climbing. And then once we get to the top, just follow along with the video, and you'll want to go to your left here, and you'll want to drop down to where Sam was climbing. You wouldn't have been able to climb here earlier, so you do have to reach the top and then go back down. And once you do that, just kind of follow the quite linear path to this ladder. And then once you reach the ladder, climb up, and you should be able to find the piece of treasure directly in front of you. As you progress, you'll come to this narrow beam that you have to run across, and then jump down to this beam. You'll jump across to another beam that will almost give out, and then on the other end, climb up the first set of stairs, and then look under the second set of stairs in order to find another treasure. This one will be the last treasure of this chapter. You'll also see me writing in my journal. This doesn't count as a journal entry, even though I did add a page to my journal. Again, they don't count always, but they usually count. It's kind of really weird how the game tracks them. Alright, so now we're in Chapter 9. At the very beginning of Chapter 9, directly in front of us, is a journal entry. You really can't miss it.
I think Avery or Thomas too were just trying to scare us.
From the previous journal entry at the very beginning of the chapter, follow along the path as you normally would. Before crossing the bridge, make sure you jump down to your left, follow the little cliffside path to a collectible.
Famous last words.
Alright, so we've made it to a cross puzzle where we had to get a bucket of water to pour down a drain. If you did it under 10 moves, you also got the Trials and Tribulations trophy. If you didn't, feel free to restart the chapter or do it again later. Anyways, at the very end, you can pick up a journal entry by interacting with the door. Then you'll want to walk forward and go to this little cliff end and wait for Sam to catch up with you. Once he does, instigate an optional conversation with him.
Whoa, watch your step.
As I live and breathe, would you look at this place?
We must be right under the cathedral.
You think Rafe and Nadine have any idea this is direct?
From this optional conversation, go back down the hill a little bit around this corner, but before you keep going, look down into the large gap. You'll see a small a rope swing, and you'll have to throw your rope even though there is no prompt. Once you do that, you'll have to swing onto this kind of hidden balcony area, and you'll find your first strange relic. There's 3 strange relics in Uncharted 4. Previous games did only have 1, which were all related to a trophy. So in this game, you'll have to collect 3 strange items in order to get the strange relic trophy. Then after that, we'll come to this area where we get kind of identified with a bridge, and we talk a little bit about how we're going to do this, how we're going to cross this area. And you'll want to drop down to your left where you'll find this hidden cliffside. Drop down using circle to the very bottom ledge and pick up the treasure. Eventually you'll come to a section where you climb across this wall and jump down, and you use a lighter in order to light this kind of mummy area. There is a giant sarcophagus coffin type thing in the middle here, and just off to the right hand side there is a door. Go into that door. It's a very small room with a broken down pillar. Climb under the pillar, and on the other side you'll find a piece of treasure.
Don't mind me.
You'll come to this section of the game where you use a crate in order to get up to a ledge you wouldn't be able to have reached without it. Go a little bit forward, and then to the right hand side you'll notice that there is this archway with a broken bridge. Drop down and then drop to the very lowest level in order to find a piece of treasure. Literally just a few seconds after that previous one, we'll come across here. There'll be a large chasm with nowhere to go. You'll look across to your left, to your right hand side rather, and you'll notice that there's a crate that you can use your rope swing to get to. So you'll swing across and then bring yourself up. In the right hand side corner behind the desks and the barrels, you'll find a piece of treasure.
Made it. What's the plan? I'm working on it.
You'll come out of a small crawl space and into this large area with no way across. So what we're going to do is right next to Sam, we can drop down, and there will be a dead body, a skeleton of a past pirate. And we can inspect that in order to find our second journal note of the game.
Oh, what's this?
So now we've come to chapter 10, one of the longest chapters in the game, also the chapter with, I believe, the most collectibles, clocking in at around 23. Just make sure you're staying with the video. Make sure you're reading the names of the collectibles as you're picking them up. Now, they are picked up a little bit out of order based on how the game actually puts them in your menu. But I guarantee you, I'm showing you the fastest way and the way that's the most logical in terms of going around the map, getting around it, and effectively picking them up. Just make sure you're picking them up as I'm picking them up, and that you have all the ones on the list that are on screen. Again, there will be some that it looks like we're skipping over them or we're missing them, but I guarantee you we're not. Near the beginning of the level, before we cross our first puddle, to the left-hand side, there's a cemetery. Go up into it and find a collectible. Then go back into your Jeep, continue forward. When you come around the corner, you'll notice that there is a waterfall off in the distance. Go behind that waterfall, and then once inside, you'll have to pull down a piece of a crate. And once you pull down the crate, move it to the other side of the room in order to get up to the ledge. At the top of the ledge, you'll find a piece of treasure and a note. Make sure you pick up both of them and don't miss out.
Would you look at that? A secret cave behind a waterfall. Gentlemen, we are on a pirate adventure.
What are you, 7?
So, Victor, how is it that you know Keith?
Again, right next to that collectible, pick up journal note number 3.
It's a note.
We'll come to the bottom of a large muddy hill, and there is a small little kind of rebelled up house on the left hand side, a tower. Go into that tower, and if you look at the ground, you can find journal entry number 5. This might seem like it's part of the story. It is quite hard to miss, but you can actually just do this level by driving through it and not really looking at anything, other than there's one little interacting thing you need to do later on in the level. But otherwise, this stuff may seem mandatory. It's absolutely not. From that journal entry, just climb up the tower to the top, and on the little balcony, you can find Muggle Ivory Powder Flask. We'll come to the top of the hill we were just at the bottom of. Using our winch, we'll see that there's the huge mountain in front of us. Just continue forward. You'll have to go a little bit to the right and then down the hill to your left. Just follow the muddy tracks. About halfway through the downhill portion, there's a small little group of stone buildings. Make sure you get out of your Jeep at that part, and there is a little crate with a piece of treasure on it.
It's taken forever to get to this volcano.
From that last collectible, hop back in your Jeep, continue a little bit down the hill, and then continue forward in a straight line until you come to a bit of a cul-de-sac, or a little bit of a U-turn around a rock at the end of the road. Before going around that U-turn and continuing through the level, make sure you go to the very far end, where you'll find 2 rocks that meet and form a little bit of a door. Go inside of that door by climbing over one of the smaller rocks, and then to the left-hand side, you'll find the ancient fertility doll treasure on a box.
1 sec.
Hey, you see something?
So a little bit later on, we'll come to our first little encampment here. I've cleared all the enemies for you, but remember, if you do this with all the enemies, you're likely to get shot quite a bit. Just roll up and either shoot the dynamite on the door or pull the lever that's attached to the dynamite via the cable, whichever one you're more comfortable with. And then once the door is blown, go inside to find the journal entry number 6 in the game on the floor.
Ran Kings Bay for a while. He was a trader, slaver, general scoundrel. Look at.
After using the winch to make yourself a little bit of a ramp to get up here, just go to the left, up the hill. Make sure you carry your speed so that you can actually make it to the top of the hill. And just continue forward through the middle section here, and you'll find a small structure that you can easily climb up. At the top of that structure, you can find the Pocket Celestial Map piece of treasure.
Call off her goons.
Yeah, right.
What if we promise her a bigger cut than Ray? Actually, hold on. All right, what's up? Sorry, hold on.
From the previous collectible, we'll want to hop back in our Jeep and continue a little bit forward, where we'll have a small little cutscene slash intermission in our game showing us the area we're entering into. And once we enter into that area, as you see me doing on screen here, follow along with the subtitles if you find it helpful. You'll see that there's a lot of shoreline guys, and there's a tower up in the right hand side of the screen there. Go and to the left, and down the hill, you'll notice a small little house. And what you'll need to do is park your Jeep right in the corner there, and then you'll need to use your Jeep as a little bit of a booster in order to make the jump up to the higher ledge. Once you're on the roof, just take out your pistol or use a grenade or whatever you want to shoot out the red barrels next to the entrance on the top. And then from there, jump down into the building to find the English ale bottle, and then just climb your way back out and into the Jeep. From that previous location, we're going to go directly across the middle of this field. You'll see a large gathering of trees in the middle because there's a little bit of water there, or was a little bit of water. And just go right across. If you keep going straight, it'll narrow down, narrow down, narrow down, and then you'll see a small well. Inside of that well, there are 2 pieces of collectibles, including a treasure as well as a note. Now, in order to get them, make sure you bring the winch with you, as you will need to do a little bit of winching in order to get to some of the areas. So you want to pull down the winch, go to the other side, make sure you don't get your winch caught on any of the beams as you're getting to the other side, as I almost did here and then realized my mistake and cut back. Pull down the beam in order to be able to make the jump to the piece of treasure, and then after that, make sure you pick up the note off of the skeleton dude on the ground before making your way out of the well.
Throw the car in reverse.
Okay, what?
Again, as a reminder, journal note number 4 is found on the skeleton dude inside of this room near the back of the room. So you'll reach this large open area, and at the very top of the hill you'll notice a tower. There is quite a few collectibles here, and I'm going to do them in an order that makes a lot of sense for you guys. Keep in mind that none of these areas are mandatory, and if you really wanted to, you could actually just drive through this area and not deal with any enemies at all. Now, once you do enter the area, go to the right-hand side. You'll find a base here hidden, and I've taken out all the enemies, as I usually do. And in the very middle of this base, if you hop out, you can use your gun to shoot out a hole using the barrels, and then jump down into that hole to find English musket bandolier.
Hey, look. Anything in that pit?
Check it out. Maybe there's something down there.
Now we've made our way back out from where we just were and back into the car. I'm going to show you where to find the muggle box now. It's a little bit of a journey, but if you follow along, it really is not that bad. Just go through the cave system right next to the base we were just in. It'll basically bring you back right to where we entered this area from, and I'll show you exactly where the muggle box is from a distance, and then I'll show you how to actually get there. So now that we're back in the open, you'll notice there's a few hills directly in front of us. And right there, I'm going to hop out and show you exactly where we're aimed for. In that little area is a piece of treasure. You'll actually notice from here how we're going to get up there using the upward slope that goes from right to left, and then a second upward slope that goes from left to right. Just use your Jeep to climb up those ramps. Go very slowly, as it is quite a tight space. And at the very top, inside of the kind of small base there's no enemies, but it's just a little small building made of stone. You'll find this piece of treasure.
Go slow.
You got it.
Whoa, hey!
Stay put.
I'll just wait with Sam.
From this piece of treasure, make your way back to the Jeep, and instead of going to our objective, which is that large tower at the top of the hill, we're going to want to go into the other base. So, similar to the first base, which is on the right-hand side, this area is kind of symmetrical, and there's another base on the left-hand side. So, just make your way very dangerously down the hill, as I just did. Don't worry, your car always lands wheels first. At the bottom of the hill, climb up to the left here, get into the base, and feel free to take out the enemies. This is one base where I didn't do that. I literally just rolled in, got out of my car, I jumped out, I fired at the dynamite door, and then ran inside. If you're on a harder difficulty than moderate, you'll probably get killed. But once you do that, just hop inside and pick up the collectible. Alright, so now that we did that dangerously, we're going to run back out into our Jeep, and we're going to make our way to the top of the hill towards our objective, which is the large monument that you should be able to see and identify quite easily. So just in case you didn't on your way in, I'm going to shoot at it right now. and once you reach it, you're going to want to hop out of your Jeep and interact with it in order to trigger journal entry number 7.
Yeah, I think we gave them the slip.
Yeah, but they could call for help.
It's not like they don't know we're here already.
Right.
You know, come to think of it, I actually dealt with Alcazar a few decades ago.
Whoa, hey!
Check it out, boys.
What is it?
Cool.
Now, after you triggered your journal entry, don't leave this area quite yet. You'll actually want to climb to the very top of the tower in order to find a treasure, which is the Scottish 2-pence coin. To do that, it's a pretty easy climb. By now, you should easily recognize which ledges you can and cannot climb, and once you get to the top, make sure you pick up the treasure. Now, after that, you'll notice that Sully and Sam are walking about, and once they reach certain areas, you can have optional conversations with them. So first off, I'm going to have an optional conversation with Sully here on the left-hand side. And then from there, I'm going to go and have an optional conversation with Sam on the right-hand side. Make sure you trigger both of those before continuing on.
Me too.
I'll let you look at this.
Quite the view.
Just keep waiting to wake up.
Sam.
With all of those out of the way, we can now get back into the Jeep. What we're going to want to do is proceed, just follow the trail through the kind of rocky road and through a little bit of a tight squeeze, and at the very other side of this little area, we'll find a small base. This base actually has no enemies, surprisingly, and what we'll do is get out of our Jeep, and inside of the first base, the taller base, the base with the crate at the top and the one on the side that we start on, inside of there, on the main floor, we can find the journal entry by looking at the sigil on the ground.
What do you make of the drawbridge, Nathan?
Little out of place. But you don't put up a drawbridge unless you're trying to protect something.
Such as pirate treasure?
Another sigil.
So, do you recognize this one?
I do, actually.
Now, a lot has happened since the last piece of collectibles, but eventually we've reached this large tower with a grand staircase in front of it. So what we're going to want to do is go up the stairs, keep on the left-hand side once you reach the top. You notice there's a small shack with 2 wooden doors. Don't go in there quite yet. Instead, go past it and you'll find a small ledge with a barrel behind it. And on one of those crates, you can find the Scottish snuff something snail. And then from there, we can actually proceed with the story. So go through these doors. You're going to need to get some help. And then once you reach the basement, you'll find a bookcase. You're actually going to need to move that bookcase in order to make a little bit of room. And you'll notice that there is a wall behind that bookcase, but the wall isn't fully intact. So what we can do is we can actually pick up a explosive barrel, throw that barrel at this door, and then shoot it to explode it to proceed through the level. Now, right past this door, up the stairs, you'll find a small crank wheel in order to open the door into this larger area. And in this area, before going down the stairs, there are 2 collectibles. One of them, the brass and ivory tank card, is on the left-hand side on the desk. That's in the area, very obviously. And it's just a little bit behind some more boxes, so you might have to kind of creak around here just to make sure you pick it up. Now, the other one, a little better and well more hidden. Was that even a sentence? Sorry, it's a long audio recording, guys. Hopefully you did drop a like already on the video if it's been helpful, and share it with your friends. But what you're going to want to do is either drop a piece of dynamite onto those boxes that are in the room, or go back down into the basement and bring one of those explosive containers with you in order to blow those up. So now that chapter 10, the longest chapter, is finally over, we've made it to chapter 11. We are now in a market, and what we're going to want to do is go into the market on the left-hand side, circle around the stairs that we just came down. You'll find another set of stairs that lead even to a lower level, and at the back of that alley, we can find a mug. All right, and from that mug, we can go back into the market. Now we're going to want to go to the right-hand side of the market where we will find a antique compass vendor. The reason antique is in quotes is because we don't really know if it's a legitimate piece of, you know, antique history here. So we kind of talk with the guy and we settle for a price, but he may or may not be kind of taking us for a loop. Just continue the conversation with him, keep talking to him. The conversation lasts about 30 seconds, and eventually you'll buy the antique compass off of him.
This is something out of Avery's era. Where did you get this?
Friend, that is a very unique item. I'll give you a discount. 5 minutes.
I'm kidding. I mean, it's real.
I cannot possibly part with it for less than 300. That is my final offer.
All right, I'll take it. 300.
Nay. Really?
Done.
You see that? That's how you haggle.
You say so.
From that antique compass, we can continue down the market and follow the path of the story, and eventually we're going to want to interact with the lemur, and that will be able to trigger our optional conversation with Sully about having a dog in the future. So just interact with the lemur, follow along, and then make sure you're standing close to Sully after this little interaction in order to trigger that conversation.
It's a lemur. Come on, come say hi.
That's all right.
So cute. Whoa! Hey! Hey, Sully! Look who's back.
Rabies, Nate.
You know what? After this is over and done with, I'm gonna get a dog.
Hey.
We've now made our way into the clock tower. In the first room, we'll notice that there is a sigil in the middle of the ground. That's not the collectible. I'm just showing you where we are as a reference point. There's a large door, but before we go through that door, go across the room, behind, next to the statue. There's a theme here. There's a lot of pieces of treasure right next to statues. And if you've been following along, that should be your 50th piece of treasure, getting you the Bronze Treasure Hunter trophy. So we've made our way to the top of the bell tower, and we can do this before or after we interact with the bell. I'm going to do it before. We're going to climb to the top of the bell tower. Not all the way to the top, but at least halfway, if not 2/3 of the way. We'll come to a floor where there is a kind of 3-way beam of wood that connects the room. And there's one beam that goes across and then one beam that only goes to one side. But essentially, there are 2 balconies, one to the left and one to my right, and the ivory handle dagger is on one of these balconies. It'll actually switch based on what order you climb the building in and how you do the chapter. So just make sure you pick it up off one of the balconies. Then after that, we're going to fall down to the ground, grab onto some stuff, and the bell tower is collapsing and there's gears and things. Anyways, once we're on the ground floor, we will walk forward, and directly in front of us there is a brass globe hand warmer. Now, some people in the community did reach out to me and say that this one wasn't showing up for them, and I don't know why. You may have to restart the chapter if it's for some reason not showing up at all for you.
I don't know yet.
Alright, so now on to chapter 12. We are making our way to Libertalia. This is, in my opinion, the first actual, like, open-ended level in the game. And it's really not that open-ended if you do it, like, if you find the right way to go right away, you'll figure out the whole level right away. But essentially, I'm going to be going, starting off just to the left. So if you go forward, you'll notice 2 islands. There's a large island and a small island. Head to the left island, which is a slightly larger island, and dock onto this beach. At the back of the beach, you'll find a cross. And what I'll be doing from here is basically going clockwise around both islands, ending up in the middle where my actual story objective is, and then showing you all the ones that go with the story. This is another level where I'll be picking up treasures that are not necessarily in the same order as they would appear in your menu. I'm picking them up in the order that's going to be the fastest and save you the most time. So I picked up one thing, and I picked up the journal note from here. Get back in your boat. Get back in your boat and then head forward and just hug the coastline of this large island. Eventually we'll reach a small beach. Get off your boat and dive into the water, jump onto the beach, and then go to the back right-hand corner of this small beach, and you should be able to find the combination lock tobacco box.
gonna take a look around. You wanna come?
Of course I want to come.
Alright, from there we're going to hop back on our boat and head basically outward from the island. Don't circle near the island for a quick sec, just head outward. And you'll see a small little piece of islands here with rocks around them and even a sunken boat. But before we get there, what we're going to want to do is head forward and jump off the boat onto the island. You'll notice that there's a small little arrangement of like barrels and crates and stuff. And on one of those crates we can find journal note number 6. It's a little bit hard to see, but if you just keep scanning, look for the little icon and you should be able to find it. Now, from there, what we're going to want to do is make our way back into the back of this area. So back in the boat we go, circle around to the back of the sunken ship, and once we're there, get off your boat and go to the shoreline, look at the boat, and you can actually trigger a journal entry by examining the boat from the shoreline.
Marco!
Marco, what? You want to rejoin our little adventure?
Now from there, we're going to jump into the boat. This will also get you the Marco Polo Returns trophy if you don't already have it. So now that we're right next to the boat, dive into the water using the circle button and go into the top floor of the boat. You'll notice there's 2 floors. Next to a lot of colorful coral, you'll find a brass pocket sundial. Get back out and quickly get some air before you drown. Alright, so we're going back and following the coastline of the large island again. You'll notice there's these 2 small little cave holes. And as you go through the right-hand side one, you'll notice that there's a small little ledge. It almost looks climbable. So what you'll want to do is park your boat nice and close. Then jump on the top of your boat to get yourself a little bit of height. Jump onto the ledge. And then follow the climbable ledges to the very top, where you'll find the Persian leather notebook case. And then from there you can jump down all the way from the top into the water for a little bit of an adventure. Now that we're back in the boat, follow along and you'll notice that the 2 islands split. Don't go in between the islands, instead go straight across and start circling the smaller island. You notice that there is a tiny beach here, and if we jump off the boat into that beach, we can actually trigger the next piece of treasure by looking at the very end of the walkway. Back in the boat we go, and we continue to go clockwise around the now smaller island. We'll reach a large beach here, and at the far end of the beach you'll notice a small cave. Now we're going to get off our boat here and actually continue and progress through some of the story now that we've gotten all the loose bits and ends of collectibles in the level. So in the cave we will find the Persian silver pen box, which we'll want to pick up. From there, there is a very small cave in the middle of the island, not far from here, that has a silver and wood tankard.
Let's find a way up to that tower.
Yeah.
And then from there, very close by, you'll notice a post with a skeleton on it, and you'll want to examine that for your journal entry, and then continue on with the story by going to the tower. So after the tower bits and all that stuff, you'll come to this large temple directly in front of us. And just instead of going right across straight to the temple doors, go to the right hand side through this extra path and about halfway through that path, you'll find a piece of treasure. So now there's a bridge that collapsed, unfortunately, and we'll have to climb that bridge. It's pretty obvious that's what our objective is. At the very top here, we'll notice that there is a small little gap here we'll have to jump across with a climbable ledge on our left. Before we go there, go to the right-hand side and under this, into this rock to find treasure.
Thanks.
After that, jump across and shake Sam's hand. He'll greet you once you reach the area. And then go to the tip here of this rock, and Sam will follow you there. And once you reach the very tip here, he'll talk about the view, and you can trigger your optional conversation.
When?
Back there. I called out.
So now we've reached the base of a small watchtower. Go inside of the watchtower to find the Ottoman helmet. Now we're on top of that same watchtower. Jump across and do not slide down. If you're about to slide down, restart the checkpoint quickly. Instead, jump on this ledge, shimmy across, jump up, and find a treasure. Here comes our second of 3 strange items that we'll need in order to get the one of the strange relic trophies, and this is also a piece of treasure that is necessary for all the treasures. At the bottom of the slide, go to the left-hand side. You'll notice that there is a cliff in front of you that seems climbable, because it is. Get to the top of that area where you'll find a rope swing. Use the rope swing to get across. And on the lip of a well, you'll find the strange relic. So we worked our way back to the bottom of the slide we just used in order to get to this area. Jump down to here, and you should be able to find a journal entry by looking at this rope swing point. You can only get this journal entry if you look at it from a certain angle. From there, use the rope swing in order to get right in here. You might fall into the other one on the left of it or the right of it, and then just jump down to the second rope swing. Do not jump off of the second rope swing. Instead, pull yourself to the top and then swing into the statue that's actually holding you up. Here you should find a Hamza mythical goose. If you fall to the ground, it'll trigger a checkpoint and you'll have to restart the level. So now that we've gotten that collectible, we'll want to drop down into this room and pick up the journal entry in the middle by interacting with a small replica of some of the houses. Now from here, make sure you interact with absolutely every single piece of interactable stuff in the room, and then go to the other room where you'll find another table. Sam will follow you over, and it'll trigger an optional conversation only if you've inspected all available items.
So what the hell was this place?
Staging ground of some kind.
Oh my god, it's where they planned Libertalia.
From there, you should be able to spot a blinking piece of treasure right across. We can't swim directly to that because we can't pull ourselves up. So we'll actually have to go around into this little cliff area, jump into the water, swim across, pull ourselves up from the other side, and then walk to the peak tortoise shell box. And pick it up once you're there, obviously. You'll then make significant progress through the level and end up going back to where we kind of started some of the story sections, and you'll find Captain Avery's statue. This is a very obvious section of this level. Just walk directly in front of it to pick up a journal entry. This is now chapter 13. It has stopped raining as part of the story. We're going to make our first jump as a part of that and go across, keep shimmying across. And make sure you take the lower route. There's kind of 2 routes. You can end up dropping back to this route eventually if you want to climb your way back. But just drop to the lower route and make your way around, and you should be able to find a treasure inside of a crack here. Then after that, you'll come to this section where you have to use a rope swing. near a waterfall in order to make a large gap that you wouldn't make otherwise. So just do that, and once you jump across, you'll notice that the rocks crumble underneath your feet. We're also over halfway done the game now. We're at 100 of 193 collectibles, which is exciting. Again, feel free to drop a like if you found the video helpful so far, and share it with a friend once you're done. I would really appreciate it. But once we're here, go up into this ledge, and then drop down, and directly across from where you drop down, you'll have to make a small jump kind of across here, and you should be able to find the wood tankard, which is treasure. From that treasure, turn around and go to this large pillar in the middle of the area, which has obvious signs of climbability. So get to the top of that, make a small jump across a small gap here to a ledge. On this ledge, we'd have to actually slide down to our left. But before we slide down, make sure you pick up the journal entry off this skeleton next to some stuff written in blood. So now that we did that, jump down, slide, jump across as one does in Uncharted. Get to the very top of this area. Keep climbing up. Go forward, and instead of going to the right-hand side, go to the left. On this small shore, on a table, find the spyglass. Then we'll crawl under a small crawl space just after that. Climb up, climb up. You'll notice that there is some lot of green going on the screen, which wasn't in any of the prior areas. And directly as you enter to your left, you should find a skeleton on the ground with journal note number 7. After you put that one away, you'll want to look directly up above that to find journal entry number 16. So one was a note, one was an entry. You can actually find this entry by climbing up near it, but this is an easy way to get it out of the way. After that, you'll come to a rope swing. This is quite a bit after the last collectible. There's a whole large battle, and after that battle, it ends with a rope swing into this area. Once you climb up at the back of it, there's a small ledge here with a skeleton directly in front of you. That's very obvious. You shouldn't miss this one. Although there is a treasure right next to this skeleton that is easily missed if you were to progress now. So from that skeleton, go into the cave on the left-hand side. At the very back, you should find the dress dirk. Don't know what a dirk is, I actually had to look it up. From there, we'll come to a section where we're climbing under some buildings, and we'll need to use a QTE in order to lift a box. After that, we'll climb under and go to the right-hand side instead of continuing forward. Hopefully that made sense. This is a little bit of an extra room that has nothing in it other than a little bit of maybe a reason for you to get lost and kind of get tricked. But there's also a piece of treasure under the floorboards of this area called the Freshen Bearded Bottle. Now we're on chapter 14. There are a lot of collectibles in this chapter, even though it is a small chapter, and a lot of the collectibles happen at the very beginning. From the very start, jump up to the right-hand side, and then pick up the treasure. If you jump down from the beginning, you won't be able to pick up this treasure, but use chapter select in order to quickly pick it up. From there, drop down and talk to Sam in order to instigate optional conversation number 14. You might have to wait a few seconds for him to actually start it. From there, we can get journal note number 9. Go across and jump into the building here. I think you actually need to make this jump. If you don't, I don't know if you can get into the top floor of the building we need to get into. So jump across to the rooftop, through the window, and into the room. There's a desk with a journal note on it.
This letter's still legible.
From that journal note, turn around. Directly behind us, there's a small hole in the floor. Drop down, and there is a sword on the desk. Pick up the sword in order to kind of intrigue Sam's interest, or intrigue Sam rather. He'll kind of start looking around and talking to you, joking about it. Eventually, after that conversation kind of ends, he'll walk away, and you can trigger optional conversation number 15.
If they did, they didn't do it on this island.
From there, there's a house directly next to this one. We're going counterclockwise around this area for now. And in this house, climb through the window, or through the front door like I did instead, into this main floor back room to find a treasure. From there, in the middle of the area at the back, you'll find a journal entry by looking at the sign and interacting with it.
Hey, Sam, check it out. It's like a pirate code of conduct.
From that sign, we'll want to turn around and go into the stables. Now, this one is very glitchy. If it doesn't show up on your screen like exactly how it does on mine, it means it didn't work. All you want to do is either restart your checkpoint or restart the chapter. You'll go into the stable and then interact with this dead horse skeleton. Nate and Sam should start talking about the skeleton and why they think it's there and whatnot. And eventually that'll lead into the journal unlocking. If it doesn't trigger the AI properly, the journal won't unlock. And then after that, there's an optional conversation that also won't unlock and won't trigger if for whatever reason the stable doesn't do what it's supposed to do with the horse's skeleton. So if it's not working, just do a quick chapter reset or a checkpoint reset and it should work. From there, go across. We're continuing counterclockwise into this building. And at the top floor of this building, you should see like a small ledge with 2 chairs and a table. What you'll want to do is sit down at the chair in order to start optional conversation number 17 with Sam. This one's quite long, but very enjoyable for story building purposes. From here on out, we'll continue through with the story a little bit. As you know, we've done about 10 collectibles, and all of them have been really concentrated near the beginning, and these 4 next ones are also following that rule. So we're going by that house with the 1 piece of treasure, but instead of going into it, go by it, jump down into this ledge to find this large statue of Captain Avery, where you can examine it for journal entry number 19. From there, go to the left-hand side and have an optional conversation with Sam about the torture device that is, or like the beheading device, or like a prison. It's it's a device to hold people by their hands and necks used in the 16 and 1700s. You'll have a conversation with him about this item, and that conversation will then escalate into a journal entry. This happens automatically through means of the story, but you do have to trigger one to get the other, so they're kind of linked to each other. Make sure you get both of them. From there, you can get the ancient stone pot by entering the prison cells directly to the door on the left, and once inside the prison cells, go to the far end of the hallway, go inside the last prison cell, and then climb through the small hole in the prison cells into the middle cell to find the treasure. We've then made our way underground, and we're going to have to climb up this small ladder, and then there's a split path directly in front of us. Use the right-hand side path, which has a dead end, to find the painted copper bottle. A little bit later on, after a little bit of battles, you'll come to a rope swing into a small tower. Try to land on the top floor as it makes more sense. Then drop down onto this walkway. Preferably not like that. And then continue forward into this area. Turn to your right-hand side and drop down into this building. And you should be able to find a journal note on the desk in the middle of the room. This one's pretty obvious, but there is a hidden piece of treasure next to it. So from there, head through the door, and before continuing, turn around and look above you. You should see some ledges that you can climb, and you'll want to climb them in order to find the treasure. So we've now made it to the very top of a watchtower with a rope swing accessible to us. And there's actually a hidden kind of balcony area on one of these buildings. So we'll want to swing across, make our way up, and you'll notice that there is a large white, like very formal looking building in front of us. And instead of going there, if we look to the right-hand side, there's a rope swing. We'll have to jump, use the rope swing, and then swing into this hidden room. On top of this crate, we can find the slip joint clasp knife. From there, directly after, you'll find another rope swing to progress the story, where you'll land on this small balcony and then want to continue to the right in order to continue with the story. Before we do that, we can find that there's a ledge to our left, which we'll have to shimmy across into a room to find a large bronze boar. Once you climb into the building, you'll start a small sliding section, and you'll end up in a room with a large staircase on your right-hand side. So instead of continuing the story, just go up the stairs and follow the right-hand side split. Then once you're on the balcony, make the jump across and find the stout vase on the table.
Maybe they paid taxes.
You'll make your way outside and see a whole bunch of spikes and junk with a small little pool of water directly in front of them. Just wait around here. Sam will eventually catch up to you, and you can trigger an optional conversation with him after he stops talking.
Just fighting who? Why?
Some of these bodies, dressed a bit more fancy, look like soldiers.
So it was the colonists versus the soldiers.
And if that's the truth,
From that optional conversation, as you came into the area, go to the right-hand side of how you came in and follow under these pillars. And at the very back, there is a collectible on the ground. Now we're on chapter 15, and this might seem a little bit confusing as I explain it, but trust me, it's really not that bad. Just follow along with the video and you won't have any issues. From the very beginning, don't interact with anything. Just go forward, loop around to the left to find the treasure. From there, back out and go to the middle back of the room, and you'll find a small head of a statue. Interact with that to pick up the journal entry. And then from there, what you'll want to do is go to the left of that. In the very back, you'll notice that there is a old dead guy pinned up against a bookshelf with like two huge jousting daggers in him, and you'll want to interact with that. And then after that, Nate will start giving you some information about what might have happened, and once he stops talking, you can trigger an optional conversation with him.
Good question.
what if
After you've gotten those three, now you can go for journal notes 11, 12, and 13, and they are randomly hidden around the room in any of the searchable crates that are available to you. Some of them are small crates like this one I'm looking in now, whereas some of them are often located in small drawers in large shelves like this one. You just have to continue your way around the room, opening everything you can until you find all three notes. These are all mandatory, I believe, in order to progress through the story, but they're all random, and you do want to pick them up, so they'll automatically be in the right order. It's just dependent on, you actually finding them. So yours will likely be in a different location than mine. Keep that in mind. Just circle around the room, keep looking until you find 3 journal notes in this chapter before progressing with the story.
Hello. Huh, another one. Man, is this what was on the shelves? Found something. Oh, I'm amazed this letter's still intact.
After you find all 3 of the journal notes, meet back up with Sam in the middle of the room in order to trigger your second optional conversation of the chapter, also number 21 in the game.
the battalion?
Chapter 16. This is a flashback chapter. There are, I believe, 6 total collectibles. 3 of them are treasures and 3 optional conversations. From the very beginning, run directly across the yard on the right-hand side. There's a small fountain with some shrubbery around it, and behind there, there's a bench. On the bench, find the toy soldier. You'll make your way into the house and then open up a door after dropping down from the attic. Inside of that room, you'll find a small bed with a rocking horse and a desk in the corner. On that desk, there is a small piece of paper with a picture on the back. You'll want to interact with that, and that will trigger the optional conversation with Sam.
Every place we ever lived.
After that, you'll open up another door and find the sarcophagus room. Don't go down the stairs quite yet. Instead, go up the stairs. There's nothing at the top of the stairs other than a locked door and a toy seaplane for us to pick up.
Can I mummify you and put your organs in a jar too?
On second thought, maybe not.
Money for it.
All right, so we've made it to the main room with the huge staircase that has the white carpet. And behind that staircase, there's a room. It's kind of like a garden room with a large glass wall. In the very back, there is a book, and this book happens to be Sam's favorite book. After you pick it up, it'll start 2 pieces of optional conversations with him. They happen one after another. So just make sure you talk with him, stick out through the conversation, and then talk to him again.
The author's name is a fake.
Fake or not?
In my
This
backpack.
looks like a... You could sell it. Then you wouldn't need to take...
Now a little bit later, you'll climb up this bookcase and then onto here, and you'll want to make your way up here. You want to shimmy across to the left-hand side to progress the story, but instead jump behind you onto this balcony. This is actually one of the better hidden ones in the game, and on this balcony you can find the pirate snow globe.
Check this out.
Chapter 17. We've met back up with Elena near the very beginning. After climbing up a ladder, you'll come to this little point and there's a very obvious optional conversation.
On the island?
Right next to that optional conversation on your left hand side near the ledge, pick up the treasure.
Incredible, right?
I didn't get the full tour.
From that treasure, just follow along the path, and if you just pay attention to Elena as you're going across, she will eventually try to have another piece of optional conversation with you, so make sure you interact with her once that option comes up.
So,
You'll end up swinging across these 3 beams, and one of them breaks, and then you start getting shot at, and you get rescued, and right after that you can find a Muggle hinged box, which was a treasure that was actually right in front of you, and you were probably thinking, man, I'm going to pick this thing up, I'm going to get one on Macca and trick him, I'm going to pick up a collectible before I know where to look, and then the bridge crashed under you, and you had to do all this extra work. But you can drop down to it and pick it up and then climb back up to the base of that elevator we were just at. And at the base of the elevator, before triggering anything, you'll want to talk to your wife here 2 times, 2 optional conversations. They're a little bit lengthy, but just make sure you do the first one, and then after that one ends, there's a second one to be had.
This whole thing is powered by the water wheel down there. It's quite a feat for a bunch of pirates.
you should have seen the stuff he built in Scotland.
Sully already filled me in.
Ah. Right. At least I didn't... Well, see? At least I didn't lie again.
We're in the Jeep, we've progressed forward, and we've dropped down, and there is a broken water wheel in front of us. Just look at the water wheel from the right angle to trigger the journal entry. This should be the 22nd journal entry in your game.
Gears aren't...
After using the Jeep's winch to pull down the rocks, you'll unveil this small climbable ledge into this room that has a crate that you'll need to use in order to solve a puzzle. Before we get that crate, snatch it up. Make sure you go on the balcony to find the jade serving bowl. You'll end up swinging across a rope swing and jumping up onto these rocks. Jump up, up, keep jumping up. At the very top of these rocks, you'll actually notice 2 enemies directly in front of you and get ran the fuck over. So instead of getting in the Jeep now as you're suggested to, go behind the Jeep, around back, on the cliffside, find ancient stone bowl. We've gotten a fair bit through the level now using the Jeep. You'll notice that there is the large elevator, the really tall one directly in front of us. Before we get into that area, as we're coming up, there's a small rock here to the right-hand side with a pretty obvious ladder. And if you climb up that ladder, there's a small house that's like built into the side of the cliff, where you can find a journal note on a barrel right inside. Now you want to put that journal note into your journal, close the journal, and hop out the window to the left of it, where you can find the pewter incense burner right there on the ground. Pick that up. Now you'll want to drive towards that large elevator shaft I was just talking about, but this time there's a water wheel. But it completely works, so there's absolutely no reason to go to it, right? But there is. There's obviously a collectible there, so climb up the water wheel by going around back, using the ledges to climb up through the window, and then next to where the handle would have been if it were broken or whatever, you would find the 18th century combination lock. While on the elevator ride up, there are 2 optional conversations here, number 29 and 30.
Come for the beautiful views, Stay for the life or death gunfights. So what made you change your mind?
This way.
So we've ditched the Jeep. We're running across this beautiful field. And instead of going to the left there where you would probably want to go just based off of natural instinct, go to the right-hand side here, look into the river, and jot down some stuff into your journal to get journal entry number 23. Now, jump down, shimmy across, grab onto the ledge, jump up, and once we're on top of here, go into this little cliffside, go across, and then once we come across and around, you'll notice that there's some climbable ledges to our right-hand side. Go up on there and we can find journal note number 15.
Up by your lonesome? That's wonderful.
Alright, we're starting chapter 18 now. We are almost getting to the end of the game, guys. Hopefully you've stuck around and you haven't missed anything and this video is being super helpful. That'd be awesome if you left me a comment letting me know if it's been helpful. From the beginning of the chapter, go to the right-hand side, follow along, kind of follow the water. You'll see a small sign. Just sit here and wait, and wait, and wait, and eventually you'll be able to start an optional conversation.
Digna factis recipimus.
We receive the due reward of our deeds.
Especially if you cross a.
From that optional conversation, you should have actually probably already spotted this one yourself. There's a piece of treasure on the very end of the area. Go and pick it up. This one's been staring at you for a while. There you go. You earned it.
I'm sure he thought he was.
Head back into the middle of the area, stand at the base of the door, and you should be able to have another optional conversation here about how to get over.
Hodie mecum eris in paradiso.
Today you will join me in paradise.
Some paradise.
Now, what we'll need to do to get over this large wall is use the pillar in the middle of the area and then use the kind of hanging beams where all the dead dudes are. We'd actually have to use those to get up onto the side of the walls there. But instead of going forward where the game would want you to go, what we're going to have to do is go to a different cage. There you go. Pick yourself up, jump across, jump across. Just keep jumping across and you'll find this unlucky bastard who's inside this cage with a treasure right at the bottom of it, which you'll want to pick up. On the other side of the wall, jump down, hang on to this guy's little spear, and then go into the water to the left-hand side. Pick yourself up out of the water, and directly in front of you, there's a small little alcove kind of built into a stone section of the wall. Right around the corner, it's very hard to see, there's a piece of treasure. From that piece of treasure, we can find journal note number 16. Just follow along. There's multiple paths, but you're basically looking for the master bedroom of this broken down house. So what I do is I jump up here and then I go through this door. Once I'm inside this door, you can either climb under or go over and then jump down. So right here, once you're here, bam, right in the middle of the area, you'll see some like red wood. It's much more red and vibrant than all the other wood. And in the middle of that area, there's a bed. On that bed, the journal note. Pick it up, put it in your binder, and put that sucker in your back pocket. Continuing on with the level, we'll swing across. This area is going to be very obvious once you come to it. There's a large waterfall on your left and a huge stream with a broken down house that goes across that river. There's a small gazebo there with a table. Pick up the note on the table. And then this one is, the next one is a little bit time sensitive. Very quickly, go and talk to Elena to trigger an optional conversation. Now, it won't always be available to you. It really depends on your timing and how fast you got to her and how fast the AI followed you. If it doesn't work, restart the checkpoint and just stalk her until it works. After you get that optional conversation out of her, jump across the river, make sure you kind of battle the current, and then at the very top of the river on the other side, At the base of the waterfall, you'll find a piece of treasure, and then you can use the crate to get across. After that, we're going to get a sliding section through a breaking house. At the very bottom, we'll enter in a pool, and as we just swim around, we can have an optional conversation after about 10 to 20 seconds.
You?
Well, wet again.
From that optional conversation, we are going to have to swim towards this house as part of story progression. Before we go inside through these windows, you'll want to dive down into the river and pick up the treasure, and then dive back up through the window and proceed towards journal entry number 24. There's actually 3 collectibles that are pretty close to each other in this area. So forward, jump up the wall right here. And then as we progress forward, go through the door, and to the right-hand side, you'll see a small room. Journal entry number 24 is next to this kind of fireplace.
This is from the
An
guns.
old-timey fireplace. I want to say it's a fireplace. Maybe it's a water boiling machine. I have no idea. Behind that is a couch. Behind that couch is the Spanish bra chalice. I want to say that's how you pronounce it. Not 100% sure. From there, we can find journal note number 18. By the way, we only have one more journal entry coming up, and then we get all those out of the way. And before you know it, the game's over, and we have everything. So we're getting there. We're getting there. It's been a long journey, but we're almost there. Pick up the journal note, put it away.
Let's go.
Then you'll come to this cutscene. Bam, the Last Supper of all the pirates. A lot of good story stuff happened. Pick up the journal note on the corner of the table. Put it away. And pick up the journal entry by staring in the middle of the table and writing down in your journal. That is your last journal entry, which should unlock one of the collectible trophies. From there, we can find journal note number 20 by going into the next room and looking inside of the fireplace before exiting.
What's this?
Now we're on the cliffside. Before entering Avery's house, make sure you continue forward past these cool looking cannons and find the treasure on the window ledge, or just the generic pillar ledge on the side of the building. From there, go inside, climb up 2 ledges where you'll come into a large room with red curtains. Nathan Drake will say something about ostentatiousness, and your wife will soon come follow.
Sounds like
And eventually, if you just stick it out with her, you'll have an optional conversation with her. This is the second to last one in the game. Then, journal note number 21 is a mandatory part of the game. You'll be handed it. Just make sure you accept it. I don't know if you wait too long. Maybe that opportunity passes. But you should be handed it. Very obvious. And then the doors are open. Climb the spiral staircase on the right-hand side of the room. At the very top of the spiral staircase, you'll see a small desk with a glowing piece of treasure.
There's no more footprints. They end here.
Okay, so where did they go?
Pirate goat. Let's look around.
Chapter 19, Avery's Descent. This one's a doozy, but eventually you'll find some cool zombie things. I don't want to give away too much. And eventually there's one that doesn't do what the other ones do, and you can interact with it. Right next to it, there's a small cave on the left. Jump down 2 sets of stairs, and you'll find the treasure. The continuation of the story is on the right side of that guy that we just looked at. Now we're going to have a blue light instead of a red light. And you'll see these like 2 like mermaid looking chicks. It looks like they have boobs, and it kind of looks like they're mermaids based on the stuff around their hips. But go to the left-hand side into the cave. You'll notice like 4 barrels right outside the entrance. Pick them up. Now we're on chapter 20. This is the coolest looking chapter in terms of like color contrast, in my opinion. You'll jump down. You'll notice these huge boats with these huge sails. And you'll come here. You'll see that there's a rope swing directly in front of you. Before we do that, jump across this way. This jump's a little bit hard to make. You'll actually have to dig your thing into the side of the cliff in order to pull yourself up. And then once you pull yourself up, you actually have to land high enough to be able to pull yourself up, or else you have to redo the jump. And at the very top, you can find the jade flower pendant.
Is it
A
far?
while after that, you'll regroup with some of your dudes here. And you'll walk forward on your way to the plane. And you'll jump down these stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, follow around left, you'll see this small storefront. Inside, you can find a treasure.
Blowing themselves
Then you'll see this small little bridge that clearly failed, and there is a small river running under it. Jump to the right-hand side of it and go under this building to climb up into it, finding the treasure on the table inside. So this chapter is unique in that if you look at the menu, it says there's 2 journal notes, but there's actually only 1. The next journal note that counts under the counter for this chapter is actually in chapter 21. So it's a little bit confusing. Just follow the video. Don't confuse yourself. Just follow the video. I guarantee you'll get everything. Go inside of this building after getting across a large gap using a type of tram car. You, Sully, and Elena will come across and into this building, find that note, and then up the stairs to find the painted spouted vase on the dresser. Pick it up. From that dresser, go downstairs. You'll notice a large statue of Captain Avery. Across the street from this yellow building we're in, you'll see a small break in the bricks and concrete in the corner of the other building. Jump down into there to find the piece of treasure. So now we're starting chapter 21, which in the menu doesn't say it has a journal note, but it most definitely has a journal note, and you will have to pick it up. Before that, we'll find a treasure by finding some footprints, and then our first rope swing. Instead of swinging across, swing back to where you came from, but land higher than you normally would have came from to find the Muggle enamel bird. Now, find the journal note number 23. Again, this one counts under chapter 20, even though it's definitely in chapter 21. You'll come across a small gap and then pull yourself up. There will be a fireplace directly in front of you, as well as a skeleton just off to the right up on a higher ledge. Pick this up and you'll unlock your final journal note of the game.
His grandson. Close but no cigar, pal.
After that, you'll climb through a large section of low tunnels, and eventually you'll pull yourself up. This stuff should look familiar to you. Right as you come out, you'll see some walls you have to climb on your left, but directly in front of you there's a tortoise. And you'll see the tortoise moves across. It's actually pretty cool that there's that much attention to detail. And there's a stone vase in the little box. There's actually a lot of attention to detail in this game. At certain points you can watch the water, and there will be like whale breaches out in the distance. It's really cool. Now we're going to be climbing up, and this part's pretty obvious. You have to use the rope swing to get across, and you'll see a ship. This is the strange fruit. Like I said earlier in the video, there's 3 pieces of strange relics. You have to get all 3 in order to unlock the strange relic trophy. This is the 3rd one if you've been following along. Once you make your way down here, you'll notice the gigantic ship. Nathan Drake will make a comment about it. What you want to do is use L1 to lower yourself as much as possible, and then very slowly get into this crevice and jump up. The best way is to do that slowly so you don't crash into the wall, and you should jump when your character reaches for the ledge using one of his arms. Pick up the strange fruit, bam, Crash Bandicoot Easter egg, as well as the Relic Finder trophy. Continuing on with that same chapter, chapter 21, we'll come into a large pool, and we'll try to use the beams to pull ourselves up, but we will fall in the water. It's beautiful, clear water with lots of colors. We'll swim towards these small waterfalls, and on the right-hand side, there's a cave. What we'll want to do is get up on shore, climb up into that cave, and find the Rajasthan box. The last piece of treasure, number 109 of 109, can be found on chapter 22. From where the ship explodes, just dive down, and on the right-hand side, you should see a small cave. Pick up the egg pendant, and make sure you swim back out before you drown. The actual trophy took a little bit of time to unlock for me, so I didn't show it on screen. Now we're in the epilogue. Spoiler warning, if you don't want to know too much, just listen to my voice and close your eyes. So from the epilogue chapter, use this character to go to the pier. At the end of the pier, you'll notice a dog. Interact with that dog 2 times. On the second time, it'll trigger an optional conversation, your final optional conversation of the game, and your final collectible of the game, number 36 of 36, and number 193 of 193. Thank you guys so much for watching. At this point, you should have all collectible related trophies available in the game, including Gift of Gab, which is a silver. Again, feel free to drop a like if you found the video helpful. It's very useful to me. Feel free to subscribe for future content. Drop a like, share the video with a friend, and consider supporting the videos on Patreon. Special thanks goes to Heron Giggles and DocCupcake84 for already doing that, as well as everyone else on there for their generous support. Without them, videos like this simply wouldn't be possible. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.